What's up, Knife Tube? It's Diamond Cut Steel, and you guys are going to learn something today. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's having a good day. Today we're going to talk about two budget knives and my feelings on them. And they are the very popular Qsp Penguin and the not so loved or not so popular Qsp Parrot. Between these two, this is going to be a fairly short review, talk, discussion, whatever you want to call it. Between these two, I believe that the Penguin gets a whole lot of, how should I say this? A whole lot of attention that the Parrot actually deserves. The Penguin, while it is a decent knife, the whole everybody's got to have a Penguin thing that goes around YouTube, I don't believe that this is that good of a knife. And the reason I say that, it's got two major problems. Now, one thing about them, they have fantastic action, so if you're buying it as a fidget toy, it's a great little knife for 35 bucks or so. You know, it's on phosphor bronze washers and it has Teflon washers in between, so, you know, it does got a really nice action. But I don't believe the knife deserves as much love as it gets. And that's not saying that it's a bad knife, because I know this is going to ruffle a lot of feathers. Penguin feathers. And some parrot feathers. But the knife has one really big problem, and that is this plunge grind. It's terrible. This plunge grind is terrible. Even with opening the plunge up and being very careful, as you can see, I'm still hitting the plunge. Not a whole lot I can do about it. Not if I want to get all the way to the end, or I want to move this edge out to like right there. This plunge is terrible, and what it does is it almost if you don't do something about it, it almost forcibly throws you into a recurve after a sharpening or two. Now this one's, I'm a really good sharpener, so I know how to keep them from happening, but most people are not extremely skilled sharpeners, and if you're not, I can almost guarantee you after one or two edges you're going to start to have almost cut myself. One or two sharpenings, you're going to start to develop a recurve, and it's only going to get worse and worse and worse with each sharpening after. So that's a big issue to me. Another issue is that the knife, it just weighs too much for what it is. This is a stout little boy, and it doesn't need to be. And I'm not somebody who's hypercritical on knife weight, but it's just too heavy. And that's one of the minor problems, I guess. It's probably not going to bother most people, but the other big issue with this knife, number one is this. The plunge is number one for sure. Weight, that's subjective, and it is what it is. But one thing that is not subjective is this grind. I believe this knife is on its third edge. Yeah, I believe it's on its third edge. This is a 20 degree per side edge, and look how wide that bevel is. You see it? Right here, yeah, I gotta be careful. You see, I'm little itty bitty bit of recurve being thrown into it. Yeah, I gotta fix that on the next sharpening. Looks good over here, but I got a little bit going on over here. Or maybe that's just, oh no, I think that's just parallax. Okay, yeah, because it's not, okay. Yeah, we're good. But this grind, this is on his second sharpening, and look how thick it is. Look how thick behind the edge it is. That's silly. Yeah, that doesn't make no sense to have it that thick. You know, you're talking probably like over 25 thousandths of an inch after 2 sharpenings. Now, is it a good utility cutter? Of course, but that's just because of the sheep's foot blade. Is the D2 done decently? Sure, it is. It's not bad. You know, and as a package opener and general use knife, sure, it's gonna, you know, it'll do you a good job. But if you're, as a work knife, if it's something that you're carrying that you're actually going to use a lot during the day, that geometry's just, it doesn't make sense in a small folding knife. It does not make sense in a small folding knife. It's too thick. The grind thickens up too quickly. Even, you know, out the box, it's not terribly too thick behind the edge. But after just a sharpening or two, it's really getting thick. And say it 5 sharpenings in, man, it's gonna be an axe, you know, a splitting axe. Excuse me. So, oh my God, my voice. So, that is where I believe the Parrot is the much better knife out of the two. And it used to be $5, $6, $7 cheaper. It still is, actually. Again, it's on washers, phosphor bronze with Teflon in between. Beautiful action. Butter smooth. A more EDC friendly geometry by quite a bit. The plunge it's not good, but it's not nearly as bad. You know, you can open this up just a little bit and you're good to go. This knife's had a couple edges on it, and you see I'm just beginning to hit the plunge, but I didn't open this up. This is how it comes from the factory. The geometry of this is much thinner. You know, this here is at a good 5-6 thousandths of an inch thinner behind the edge than this, and they're on the same amount of edges. In fact, this might have one more sharpening than that. This is a very useful blade shape. It's just a good general task knife. I do like to me, an EDC, a sheep's foot blade, is a little more useful than, say, like the spear point. Just because, you know, you're on that tip without having to raise your wrist up very high. So as a utility knife, you know, that sheep's foot is better. But I would say for your all-around general cutting, this is just a better knife. The geometry is better. The blade shape is excellent. You know, you have a good flat section here. You also have some belly, and you got a nice fine tip. I believe this knife is with more straight ergonomics. This knife is also more comfortable in hand. You know, it's just simple, straight ergonomics, and it's perfect. It's comfortable in hand, it's ready to do work. Better all-around knife. So, better ergonomics, better geometry. Blade shape is excellent, but depending on your use case, the sheep's foot may be a more fitting blade shape. Both have excellent actions. Both are priced very well. The Parrot, you know, $5 to $8 cheaper. I also believe that the Parrot has a better pocket clip. I do not like this deep carry clip. Number one, these screws if you have, you know, good quality pants or shorts, good quality with thick, you know, thick pocket material, those screws are annoying. They need to be recessed. They're not. Bingo. Perfect pocket clip. Now, I'm not somebody who cares much for deep carry clips. I don't really like them. I don't mind them, but, you know, they're not my favorite. This is a perfect spoon type clip. Slides in and out in the pocket easily, holds tight, comes out of the pocket nicely. Plenty of, you know, the ramp's perfect, plenty of room right here. Just an all around good pocket clip. Good ramp, slides in the pocket easy until you catch those screw heads. You know, just don't. If they would have recessed it, this clip would have been just fine. As is, it's annoying. But I believe the Parrot is the better knife out the two. I believe the Penguin gets such insane popularity because the right couple YouTubers really constantly, still to this day, you know, speak on it, and the whole everybody's got to have a Penguin, you know who says that. It's sold a lot of them, and it keeps them popular. The Parrot, it doesn't really get spoken about, but yet I believe fully that it is the better of the two. Now, if you're just looking for fidget knives, it don't really matter. They both have excellent actions. You know, it is what it is. But as a EDC knife, or especially as a work knife, the Parrot is the better knife of the two, significantly. Geometry really, really matters. If you're doing a lot of cutting during the day, your hand is going to thank you with this geometry over this geometry. Especially if you're breaking down a bunch of cardboard in a warehouse, or you know, cutting a bunch of sheathing, you know, anything where that thinner geometry is going to make your life easier. Your hand's going to thank you. You know, if it's just something like cutting plastic banding or whatever, that's all on the edge geometry. I mean, doesn't matter all that much in that case. It just matters how, the only difference there would be on how low of an angle you run the edge. But blade geometry itself, grind geometry, is not going to make that much of a difference for things like that. Or if you're cutting like shrink wrap and stuff like that. But if you're cutting stuff that, like cardboard, plastic sheeting, you know, stuff like that, that much thinner behind the edge geometry is going to make your life much easier. Every single cut that you do will be less work, less effort. And if you're somebody who uses a knife a lot during the day, that's going to add up very quickly. Not to mention, this knife, because it's thinner behind the edge, is going to have substantially better perceived edge retention. You can, you know, this right here, this edge is at 17 degrees per side, and you see the edge bevel width is much less than on this at 20. So I'm running a lower edge angle, lower behind the edge thickness, and it's going to naturally pass through material easier. So it just makes everything more efficient. Your edge is going to, your perceived edge retention is going to be higher. It's going to pass through materials easier. Less work on your body. Just all around a superior cutting tool. Plus, It's substantially lighter. And I don't mean just by a little bit, I mean by, where's my scale at? I don't know where my scale is. Probably an ounce. Yeah, maybe a little more than an ounce. It's quite a bit lighter, and guess what? Not only do you have about an ounce less weight, you also have more available cutting surface. It is literally superior in every way, and I don't understand why the Penguin is the one that gets all the love, and the Parrot is hardly spoken about. I haven't really checked, but I've never seen no videos on the Parrot. I mean, other than just quick review videos. I've never really seen no comparison videos. So hopefully this video gets seen, and you go grab you a Parrot, and you're gonna like this knife a lot better than you will this knife if you are a user. I guarantee it. It's a superior cutting tool. Alright guys, go check out a Qsp Parrot. They're a great knife.